We are back and ready to get kicking off with our next match. We've got Felkeine versus Jarla coming up here, and we get to see Jarla play again. He played yesterday, whereas Felkeine, I think it's his first one for the round robin here. So we'll see once again if he's going to make a good start to the round robin or not, because he did do pretty well in the first week of Swiss, at least.
He did, yeah. He got off to a flying start, wasn't really able to follow that up with results, as it was Swids then who started flying the flag for France. In the weeks, winning both week 2 and week 3. But France as a whole has just continued to do extremely well. Felkeine was kind of the onlooker on the last day as the tiebreakers and the divisions were being sorted out. He was the guy with the game in hand, essentially, I guess, in analog sports terms, where he'd done his work already and he was just waiting for the results around him to see if he was going to end up in that Division A. Eventually ended up with the good news that, in fact, yes, he had done enough to secure himself that spot in the upper division.
Yeah, and we can see the bans here now. Quite expected, more of the normal bans where the Warriors are gone. But the big question mark, especially if you tuned yesterday, you'll know this for me, is Jarla's Galakron Warlock, how it's going to perform. It did not look great in yesterday's match, honestly. It lost, I believe, 2 out of the 3 losses that Jarla took was to that Galakron Warlock yesterday. Yep. And Felkeine, on the other hand, has the zoo list that basically the French players have led the way in and popularized, at least in my opinion. So Felkeine going to be rocking the zoo, going to look pretty good, I think. Jarla, the question still is there. Is Galakron Warlock going to be good enough? Because it wasn't yesterday, and he's only playing 2 matches this week, so it needs to be good enough today if he doesn't want to go 0-2 in week 1 of round robin.
Yeah, as long as you accept that Gallon is French, which I think we established yesterday, then yes, I agree. I agree with that statement. But yeah, Galakron Warlock did definitely seem like kind of a whiff yesterday for Jarla, but you can't judge anything too harshly on such a tiny sample. It made a bit of an appearance in Americas last night as well. I believe Just Saying was bringing it as part of his lineup. And, honestly, these are 2 really, really smart, dedicated, hardworking, incredibly top-tier Hearthstone players in Jarla and Just Saying who are choosing to put Galakron Warlock into their lineup. So maybe there is more to it than meets the eye, but it was certainly a surprise to me to see it in Jarla's lineup. And it kind of performed, at least in the tiny sample, as I expected it to, which of course is going to give us some element of confirmation bias. But yeah, here's the opportunity for Jarla to prove us all wrong.
Yeah, we might even see a slight evolution of a more late-game Warlock going forward, because not only did Rivius in the Asia-Pacific region bring a Quest Warlock with some cool ideas and a lot of heal and removal, which is basically what's one of the big Galakron Warlock strengths, but No Hands has been playing a Quest Warlock at High Legend as well and had some positive results there. So I wonder if we'll finally get to the point where a Quest Warlock is a legitimate common pick in competitive environment and not just a sort of a side attack, like kind of lightning in a bottle style deck that we see now and again, especially from Rivius.
Sense Demons on Nasi Broodmother is just good. Like that combination of cards is just strong. Whether anything else around that actually gets anything done remains to be seen. But anyway, none of that nonsense is in fact in play here, as Jarla's Galakron Warlock is pretty standard, as we've been seeing for multiple weeks now. Just invoke package, removal package, healing, and Galakron. But he's going to be starting out here with a Demon Hunter Mirror against Felkeine.
Yep, and just give you the lowdown on the Demon Hunters. Let me have a look. Jarla is running the low curve list, which has no Priestess of Fury package, but has 2 Frozen Shadow Weavers and the 2 Beaming Sidekicks, which is the cards you're really looking for in that list. Whereas, let's find him, Mr. Felkeine has the exact same list, a True Mirror.
Nice. Is it actually 30 for 30 as well?
I didn't really go card by card, but from the looks of what the one-ofs are and everything, and the double Shadow Weavers, yes, it looks 30-30.
Yeah, one Spectral Sight and the 3 legendaries, and then 2 ofs. Yeah, looks like it.
And the big deal for me now is what I would like to see in this matchup. It's one of the newer forms of Demon Hunter is Sidekick as big as I think it is? If one player has one early on and the other not. Because just having that extra 2 health, I feel, makes the world of difference in this matchup.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really big deal. Again, I think it's a card that not many decks can afford to play because it's so low impact. It's such a bad top deck. But Demon Hunter has that luxury because they
I
get to support
grow
it with so much
impatient.
additional card draw with, Sigil Runners, with Spectral Sight, and with Skull of Gul'dan and everything else. So I think it's a really, really smart inclusion in the deck.
Yeah, an interesting point as well, as I just triple check, is these two players are running eye beams.
Mm-hmm.
We'll check Jarla. Oh wait, Jarla is not. That's a big difference. What is he running instead? This is very difficult to work out. The list looks so similar.
Frozen Shadow Weaver?
Nope, 2 Frozen Shadow Weavers. It's not the Chaos Strikes, is it?
Oh, Felkeine's running Chaos Strikes.
Yeah, no eye beam. Oh, Frenzy didn't know.
You're just naming Hearthstone cards now, Raven.
Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, it looks like there's 32 cards in one of the players' lists.
Mm-hmm.
But the big deal there, though, in all seriousness, is I cannot see an eye beam in Jarla's deck, whereas Felkeine does have them, which is a big deal because it's just that cheap insta removal in such a tempo-based mirror match. The difference between it having eye beams and not is actually pretty huge. Not as much in some of the other matchups for the Demon Hunter builds, but when they face each other. Oh.
Time grows short. All I see is weakness.
Data Overseer with that second slice is going to help build a board almost out of nowhere. Felkeine committed the coin, the Overseer, and second slice for this, but has good follow-up with the Frozen Shadow Weaver. And what this really does is just say to Jarla, okay, you have to deal with this board, or you're going to keep falling behind, because you frankly cannot leave a Satyr up on board in the mirror.
Yeah, for sure has to respond to it.
Normally, if you're responding to it, you aren't exactly making a great board yourself either.
No, but Jarla does at least have that altruistic security blanket to fall back on for now. This turn looks fairly straightforward from Felkeine's perspective. As expected, the only alternative play there was Shadow Weaver, which I think is much more important going into the turn 5 I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
From Demon Hunter, again, for all of the same reasons. Not only does it shut off Warglaives, it also means that they cannot Twin Slice and Gladebound Adept on that turn, which is the other big powerful turn they're looking to do a lot of the time.
Yeah, very similar to Boom Pistol Bully, in which it's a decent card any turn you can play it, but in certain matchups there are like game-winning turns, right? And just like Boom Pistol Bully is going into say turn 6 or 6 mana for Mage or Rogue, for example. Against Demon Hunter, yes, if you can freeze your opponent's face, you want to do it going into the Warglaives of Azinoth.
I grow impatient.
So now, how long can Jarla wait? How greedy can he get with this Altruis? Because it is a clear right now, it is a tempo swing right now, but it's a long way short of what this card can achieve.
I see time grows short.
I think I like this with Slice, right?
Yeah, this looks solid.
He uses an Altruis sort of card up, but based on where the Twin Slice itself was in the hand, I think that's very tricky to actually get active as a Twin Slice. Digital Runner can fill out the curve if Felkeine really wants, but once again, now we see some of the benefits of making a Satyr Overseer 4 health and not 2. This is much more difficult to deal with.
Demons? Demons.
This is kind of strange, right? Because if the Shadow Weaver comes down, it have to like freeze the 2/2 and Felkeine puts everything in hero power into this Satyr. He could actually freeze face and still stop the Satyr making more minions, but he ends up leaving a 4/4 on the board, so kind of tough.
Yeah, it's still a good utility card to have in the situation, though. There are very few cards that would give him as many options as he has here. Frozen Shadow Weaver does.
And now I think with that draw, he just doesn't use the swing of the weapon this turn, right?
Right. I would expect so. Although he might still decide that Warglaves is going to be stronger next turn.
In the shadows.
I don't mind losing the 1 damage if that's the case, though.
Yeah.
I'll lose 1 damage to have the option of a potentially very powerful turn with this Gladebound Adept.
Yeah, it's also better if you're going to freeze this way as well. If you're going to freeze
Yeah.
the other way, then obviously the board can get wider because of the attack being available. So in that case, maybe Warglaves to pick off the small minions would have been stronger. But if you're just going to leave this solid 4/4 on the board, then yeah, it looks like you want to play Gladebound next turn instead.
And now
I
the
just
weird
realised,
question...
passing back to
Oh, go on.
Jarla's turn, that I was talking about like Altruis and then just a twin slice from the middle of the hand last turn, as if that was a real thing.
Oh, were you?
It definitely isn't. Yeah, I don't know what on earth.
Well, when you said clear, I thought you meant with the second slice, then swinging into the 2-1.
Right,
so
right,
it is
right.
technically a clear, just a
Right.
very messy one.
I hope chat's flaming me super hard for that right now. I deserve it. That was dumb.
Time grows short.
I did wonder whether Jarla was ever going to just play the Gladebound Adept this turn. It's a
I
horrible
grow
thing to do,
impatient.
but just drawing 1 card and hoping it's decent is also pretty rough as well in my book.
Is it cold in the shadows?
Yeah, you see the counter freeze though. This is what I was talking about. Turn 5, such a big impact. Felkeine, the man with the most expressive face in Hearthstone, has just told you the entire story about how big that is this turn. Just a
And if
complete,
you want some-
complete lockout of his hand, right? Like, just nothing
Yeah.
works now.
And if you want an example in one of the big differences, we talk a lot about Priestess of Fury in the
I
slower
grow
list.
impatient.
But also, the slow list does not run Shadow Weavers.
Mhm.
And look what Shadow Weavers have done, at least just in the mirror.
Yeah.
He just spends the mana to equip the Glaives anyway. You can trade the Shadow Weaver into the Satyr, so there's no duplication on board. Take the hit. It's bad, but he is ahead on health, so he can take roughly that kind of damage for 1 turn. Then he has swings of the Warglaves if has enough. He has the Gladebound Adept to follow up. I think this is rough, but I think it's...
Agree on all fronts.
Ooh, now he can beam in sidekick the 4/3 if he really wanted to.
Yeah, that is potentially
doesn't get to-
pretty huge. But
Is it worth in the Gladebound for that, though?
exactly, I don't think so. You just want to get your big boy in play this turn.
I was wondering as well, it's an option if he ever just plays Skull this turn.
I just think it's too low tempo, especially when you're already staring down the Warglaves. Like, you just leave him an amount of damage in play that Felkeine will quite happily tank with his face and just have a full development turn, right? I guess if your Skull hits good stuff, then your Altruis can deal with that the next turn, but it seems unnecessary.
It's a gamble. It's a gamble. Whereas here, if it's the I would say just the level 1 play of Hero Power Gladebound, not only are you doing an extra 5, but then if the Warglaves clears, it's going to be an extra 11, which puts Felkeine at 4, which is a very doable amount of damage.
Do you see what must be done?
Oh, I didn't see this one.
I got you, friend.
Didn't see this one coming. Jarla really wants that
Admittedly-
Skull next turn, huh?
Neither did I, but yeah, does look that way. Gladebound is just a huge swing turn now, though. Does mean Felkeine now has Altruis lined up from his left on the following turn. Felkeine also choosing not to expend additional charges on these 1/2s, which I think is smart, not in the least, because Jarla does not play I-Beam, which would make these 1/2s being able to attack the 6/4 a lot more relevant.
This is This is where the turning point was for me last turn. This setup means that Jarla really wants to play Skull.
Yeah.
But is there reliably enough time to involve Skull in this game of Hearthstone?
I do find that last play strange. Yes, I agree.
And
Our enemies will fall.
although it's one of those moments where it's like, oh, it's easy for you guys to say because of the pressure, it's like, the pressure was evident. The weapon was there. Oh, there's some claps from Fel. Oh, wow.
Round of applause indeed, Felkeine. And Jarla knows. Jarla knows exactly how much of a big deal that is.
They will never catch me.
It was
Jarla
dead.
just
Jarla,
the
if it
longest
makes you
shaking of the head ever.
If it makes you feel any better, though, Jarla, it was dead already. He did have a Chaos Strike on the other side of his hand that was outcast.
I feel like this game is a turn later than it should be, or a turn slower than it should be.
Right.
On Jarla's side here.
Demons?
Is there anything you can actually draw, especially now that Altruis is gone? And Jarla isn't playing I-beams?
But there's certainly no one thing he can draw. I can't tell you if there's a combination of 3 cards that get him out of it, but it was definitely Skull first and not Sigil Runner first, so I'd be ordering.
Tough one there, I think, for Jarla, but I will say that game did look like he took his foot off the pedal a little bit, and I didn't know if the health totals said that he should have done that. Based on him, yes, he had the skull, but he also just had a ton of damage available. So Felkeine going to take the game at number 1 there in the Demon Hunter mirror off the back of that Altruis. But although that might have looked quite lucky with the outcome, like Altruis does do that quite often if you just have a few cards in hand, right? Although he did have the Twin Slice that helped, as you mentioned, the Chaos Strike was just already there. It's not as if it was a huge, low chance outcome for him.
Yeah, the Twin Slice was essential, though. There's no other card in the deck that deals the amount of damage with Altruis that Twin Slice does, right? Like, the card's absolutely insane in combination with it. But it's... I think a bigger talking point is the play from Jarla, because I hadn't even looked at the Altruis turn there, because I was still debating the merits of the other 2 plays, which was attack and deal damage with your Gladebound Adept, and beaming sidekick your 4/3 and play Gladebound. Because the 4 damage that you miss from an unactivated 6/4 you're playing on the board, sometimes you get that back by turning your 4/3 into a 4/5 and making it more difficult to remove from the board, right? Or you can even go the other way and make a 6/6 instead of a 6/4, and then you're protecting various things from Altruis clears, from I-beam clears, from all these kind of things. I was absolutely not expecting the low tempo play. With the Altruis coming out instead. But maybe we're staring at a Gladebound Adept the whole time. Maybe that's influencing our decision, but it did look strange to me.
Yeah, I mean, I've even suggested the normal version of Skull to set up for maybe an Altruis turn the turn after for some big damage and maybe board clay, which was an extreme suggestion, don't get me wrong. I don't think that was the play. But yeah, I also just did not see that setup. And the problem for me is, I feel like if you go for that and then don't cast the Skull, like 100% of the time the turn after, then it feels even worse, right? Because that was the whole point, and then the game just gets super slow for you. But Felkeine does take the win there. Jarla's still going to have his Demon Hunter to play, and there's now Rogue and Warlock left for Felkeine.
It's also additionally confusing, because I can understand saying I'll fall behind a little bit there, but my goal is to get this Skull outcasted, and then I'm going to get this cheap hand, and then I'm going to Altruis, and I'm going to swing the entire board state. Right, that's a plan that does make sense in the Demon Hunter mirror sometimes, but you had to play your Altruis to get the Skull outcasted. Obviously, it was never going to happen because of that ordering in hand. He wasn't going to get the Skull outcasted before playing his Altruis, so it was a tough situation to be in. But yeah, I think it was really key talking point of the game.
Yeah, and maybe of the series at this point, because whenever there's a key point that arguably just loses a game that looked pretty good, then maybe that's the match that makes the difference, right? Or the game that makes the difference in the match, sorry. So yeah, there is the Rogue and Zoo left for Felkeine to take wins with. And I don't know, Sal, have you changed opinion much on Zoo based on what more of it we've seen across regions now in the past day or so, based off the previous weeks too? Or still think it's pretty solid? Still liking it?
Pretty consistent. I said week 1, I thought it was a pretty good deck, but the insanity of Galakron Warlock at the time was just kind of keeping it out of contention.
Right.
As soon as that slight nerf for Galakron Warlock came in, I do feel like it was and has been the bring so far, and we've at least seen that be a success for Swid so far, who's been the most dominant player throughout Europe Swiss, and he has been doing that largely off the back of Zoo Warlock.
Yeah, and one of the things I think is really fun about the meta, I know some people are like criticizing the meta right now in general, but one thing I think is a really good point is I feel like every deck we talk about, we're like, yeah, so do you like the deck? Yeah. What build though? And there's about 5 different builds of every deck, right? There's tons of rogues, tons of warriors, even multiple different zoo lists, multiple demon hunters. I think there's a lot still knocking about in the meta right now and a lot to discover as people really start to narrow down these builds. But let's get into it. It's going to be the zoo going up against the demon hunter.
If there's one thing I know about Hearthstone in 2020 is that there is certainly a lot to discover.
Good job.
Thanks.
His options here for Jarla to just go double Blazing Battle Mage with
I
a
grow
ongoing follow-up.
impatient.
Doesn't look too bad for me on this side.
Short.
It's also a bit of a strange matchup. I think who's the aggressor flips very quickly in this one, based on just, is there a scrap in? Is the zoo player going to play old style zoo? They're just playing stuff on curve. Taking a glance at Felkeine's list, he's running the the French version, right? The Zephyros, the eggs. Outside of that, the general zoo.
That Fiendish Servant might end up being a deceptively good draw here. So it seems unlikely Felkeine will just want to jam Magic Carpet on 3, so he really wanted like some kind of minion that he could just eat up with Evil Genius, get some buff lackeys in his hand potentially. Although Fiendish Servant is also a really good card just to actually get hit with the Scrap Imp buff itself. So we may just see a life tap turn 2 instead.
I was just going to say, I actually think that life tap feels very good this turn coming up for Felkeine because, yeah, he's going to take some damage, but the whole idea is if you tap, then your follow-up is so strong you'll never take damage again, right? With the carpet and hopefully for Felkeine, of course, like extra 1-drop.
The fact that Felwing came down, though, which, by the way, we were informed by Lorinda, is the difference between the 2 decks of the Demon Hunters. It's the Felwings versus the I-Beams. But since Felwing came down here, it's so much pressure represented that can you even afford to life tap here? I do feel like Felkeine's kind of forced into making this play I was talking about. Just have big lackeys to rush on the following turn.
End up with Titanic as well, which isn't half bad. Just in terms of potentially making that carpet huge.
Mm-hmm. And it'll be a decision, I think, based on how much power he has to leave up on the following turn, about whether he goes with the Titanic Lackey as his one-of Lackey next turn, or whether he uses the Spell Lackey instead. You need that extra health on your carpet to protect it, potentially, from what the Demon Hunter can do, because you really want it to survive over multiple turns here, if possible. Ooh, Argent Squire, even.
I do think I like the Titanic still. This turn, maybe Titanic just the Imp.
It's ever not a carpet turn. I'm going to save it to guarantee you get double rush out of it for a bigger swing.
Oh, it's a big carpet, Sol.
It is.
The light protects me.
I think with 4 mana, with a no I-Beam deck, this thing is safe.
Yep, seems fairly confident there. Did go with the Argent Squire, of course, just utilising that Divine Shield, and now
I grow
mentioned there's multiple big
impatient.
Lackey follow-up and a taunt of his choice. Even just taunt the egg next turn, right? Just be super awkward.
Yeah, Egg's already a 2/5, so he makes a 2/7 taunt that obviously increases in power when it gets popped open. Seems
Yeah.
very, very strong.
Demons?
Scrap him's so insane. This card. Oh my goodness.
It is weird though, right? Because I feel like, although it is obviously powerful, I don't think it's too powerful.
Grows short.
It might be too powerful. It's right up there.
I think it is a very, very powerful card, but very, very powerful cards are allowed, right?
Yep. In fact, encouraged in some circles.
Like people who like Zoo. I don't know. I think it's good because you are committing a 2-mana do nothing for 2 turns, or 2-mana. That thing does nothing for 2 turns, which is just the way Dom works, of course. But also to make it better, you have to kind of play less cards a lot of the time as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the payment you have to make it good makes it just about fair.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is very strong though.
Would it change your opinion at all if I told you it was like 14% higher win rate in the opening hand than any other card that isn't Hand of Gul'dan?
No, because the whole deck's built around it, right?
Okay.
I think when it is because look at the games you don't draw it, it's your deck's so much worse. But that's what happens when you build your deck around one thing.
Mm-hmm.
It looks pretty unfun here for Jarla. This is often the case. Well, we've seen this matchup of Demon Hunter pushes good damage, and then it stops because Zoo just pushes them off the board completely. So a lot of this part of the game, I feel, revolves around Metamorphosis.
See, I told you Sense Demons was a good card. Look at that.
I'm pretty sure I played Sense Demons before you did. Ever.
Wow.
In basic Hearthstone.
That's good to say.
I built a really bad Warlock deck once, and so if anything, this idea for Sense Demons is mine.
Sorry, Raven. I didn't know that was going to be such a controversial statement. I didn't know you're such a
protects
Sense
me.
Demons hipster over here.
It was the first thing I tried when Quest Warlock came out.
I can't move.
In the meantime, though, Jarla's just getting beaten up. And even a Skull of Gul'dan, what's it even have to be? Can't be. Altrius can't be played this turn.
Yeah, since the nerf, yeah, exactly. This outcome is one of the biggest deals about the nerf from 3 to 4. A lot of the time it doesn't feel like it's had too big of an impact, but exactly this iteration where you have to panic Skull on 6 and you're behind in the game because you've kept a Skull of Gul'dan in your hand the entire game and then you just rip it for a 0-mana Altrius. This felt horribly unfair, so I'm glad this doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, combined with what Skull was as well.
Yeah.
It was like, even more mana.
Yeah.
Oh, this Evil Genius could actually just open up lethal. Any form of, 2 damage I think he needs? A quick off the top of my head count. And that looks like 3 damage to me, Thottle. Mainly, it is the 2 from the Lackey, the Kobold Lackey, which is key, and that is going to be a very swift game number 2. Demon Hunter struggling here for Jarla.
Ooh.
Zoo doing what it does best, but as we did say, I think the insane power of not only scrapping, but scrapping, buffing a carpet against Demon Hunter when that Demon Hunter doesn't have eye beams. How do they kill it? I just don't know. It's got so much health. It's incredible.
Did you see the sarcastic round of applause from Jarla at the end there? I have very rarely seen that kind of thing coming out from Jarla in GM. Clearly, someone does not like losing to Scrap Imp, but very, very realistically, that is kind of what happened. Like, that's kind of my argument with the card is that, it's kind of Keleseth effecty, right? Like, whether it's too strong or not, it's so swingy that maybe that just isn't a good
Right.
feeling generally in the game to be playing around with. And yeah, I can definitely imagine being pretty salty about losses to that card in particular. But honestly, zoo draws get even stronger than that. That was like just a scrap imp.
There's no
like,
expired merchant.
yeah, there was no nuttiness with drawing your whole deck in one turn or anything like that. It was just a scrap imp and just play your cards, which is honestly, I think, why you see it be such an effective deck so often.
Yeah, and I think honestly, you talk about Jarla's reaction on camera. He's probably a bit frustrated with the way the weekend's going, right?
Yeah.
He lost his match yesterday.
Yeah.
Now he's quite heavily losing this match. I would be annoyed, regardless of what happened in this specific games. I'll just be like, right, is this a 0-2 weekend? Because that is not what you need with only 4 weeks to actually play. After this match, Jarla's only got 3 weeks left. Definitely a scary space to be in, so I imagine he is frustrated. I don't blame him, but he's not out of it yet. We have seen reverse sweeps happen. Of course, Felkeine just has his rogue take a win with, and Jarla is going to be putting his match life, at least for now, on this Galaxy. Felkeine, one of the few players who is bringing the Highlander Rogue as well. This is where I step in with the Rogue knowledge. It can take over from all this stealth and 2-off shenanigans that's going on.
I could do it, putting my feet up for a bit. Oh, you buddy. Oh, big stretch.
Well, there it is. That's the reason you play it. It's Zephyrus on 2.
Oh, I knew you could handle it.
Yep, perfect. I want it. In all seriousness, though, one of the powers is not only just Zephyrus on 2 against a lot of the time aggro decks as well, but also just Shadow Step in this deck is filthy, isn't it? The Zephyrus target, the Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, obviously the 2 big ones, but you still get some value from some other stuff regardless. But yeah, I like Highlander mainly because I think I just enjoy playing it a bit more. But these are the real powers.
Yeah, you could say that Shadow Step is such a good card in this deck that I wish I could play 2 of them.
Can't Shadow Step Zephyrus if you played 2 of those. Wild Growth, though, with this hand is not too bad. There is, for once, in Highlander Rogue, something it normally does struggle with. There's a good chunk of invokes already available for Felkeine. And then he just has Galakrond and Kronks. Seems pretty good to me, Sol.
You know what confuses me, Raven? After 5, 6 years, however long it is I've known you.
How do we? I think is the answer.
How do we still disagree on everything? Because this just isn't set up. We actually just always have opposite opinions on every Hearthstone deck ever. I don't understand how this still happens.
It is strange, isn't it? Because a lot of the time, once you've known people or had a group of people stick around, friends, whatever, for a certain amount of time, it starts to become an echo chamber a lot of the time, right?
Yeah.
You will normally spend time with each other, share similar opinions, and sort of build on that. Nope, not us two. We keep it purely professional. We do not let friendship get involved with our own personal opinions of things. If anything, we're just a very unbiased casting duo. I think that's just a positive.
To bring this back around into the world of relevancy, that is actually something that we heard players talking about last year in Europe and in Americas about, practice groups becoming echo chambers, as you put it, and how a lot of people branched out and kind of switched practice groups mid-season, or how I believe Bloodyface was talking about how he doesn't necessarily feel like he needs to practice with a group of other people because he doesn't want to be, influenced by their biases, and he thinks his testing is, he's got his testing format down to something that's pretty objective. So yeah, it is a very real point, as much as we were just sort of being done.
And honestly, Bloodyface, one of the most consistent players in Hearthstone right now, maybe still doesn't get the credit for how consistent he's been over the past 1 to 2 years.
Careful, Casey's already mad enough.
Casey will just complain to you, it's fine.
That's true, yeah, you're right. I'll definitely take that one.
But we see the ramp starting to pay off now for Felkeine. Still has hold of that coin as well. Means he has access to a lot of options. Coining out this Togwaggle means that he's just doing everything that little bit faster than he normally should. Maybe the practice group should have an exchange program where every time there's like one player from one practice group goes and sits in with the other and they swap just to keep the ideas fresh. Maybe that would work. Maybe that's something I should start.
You just get a bunch of like double agents though, right? It would all get very nasty, I think.
Maybe not if they're different regions.
Yeah, maybe.
In the meantime, though, Netherbreath going to clear up this Togwaggle, and although it looks like Felkeine's ahead in terms of being able to just ramp and then having access to Galakron, Krunks, etc., he does have to actually work on ending the game, and I feel like that is often quite difficult to do versus Galakron Warlock, because the nature of Plague of Flames being some of the most, if not the most insane removal in the game right now, along with cards such as Netherbreath, even the Galakron itself, Sacrificial Pact, just for that insane healing that it also runs. So, though Felkeine's got a lot of stuff, he does need to utilize it in a way that ends the game pretty quickly.
Yeah. See, not a great-looking pull off the Wondrous Wand here for Felkeine, but silver lining. They are all playable cards that he can just dump out quite happily here, and that he does get the second invoke onto his Galakrons, which means he can now Galakron for 2 more free cards on the following turn. Very rarely, Raven as the Highlander Rogue Master, you can confirm this for me. I think very rarely in Highlander Rogue do you ever play Galakron after fully invoking it.
It is quite the rarity, yes. It's one of those, it only really happens if you know you're in for the long haul, and I mean the long haul, and you can get it off that easily. But yeah, it's very much just a draw 2 and be happy with that. And the good lackeys are starting to roll in, and by good I just mean like mainly the Spell and Draconic are the ones you want. I don't think Kobold Lackey does much, Rush Lackey doesn't do too much versus Galakron Warlock, so at least in terms of the lackey count, Felkeine's doing okay in hand.
Not having that. Kobold Lackey always does stuff, Raven. It's never bad.
It's a deck that can heal for 1 million?
No, that's genuinely not even just a go face all the time kind of joke. Like, it just always useful. Like, 2 damage to a minion for 1 mana that develops a bomb. It's normally good, no matter what the board is.
Sure. And there's nothing to be taken away from just having a wide board of a lot of them being 1/1s, because it just makes Plague of Flames a horrible thing to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Or to activate.
Almost out of time.
If anything, I think that he got a bunch of resource generating lackeys off his Evil Miscreant is actually making his hand size a little bit of an issue right now in terms of
But right now, yeah,
getting
yeah.
Galakron down. Can still dump a backstab if he wants to go quickly to the Galakron though. He is on 2
Also as
boats,
well-
and he does have Praise in his hand. So maybe waiting 1 or 2 more turns wouldn't be the worst thing.
Yeah, and even just getting this ambush off isn't the end of the world. Bit of an awkward card for Warlock to deal with, honestly. Adds more health to the board for Dark Skies. It again just interferes with Plagues. It's an extra minion. It just appears. It spawns after a Netherwing. Battlecry. Even Sequence just dropped down.
Yeah, and the Praise on the Spy Mistress just looks way too strong this turn. So then you follow that up with the Hanar turn. Looks pretty solid.
I would have loved it if he just plays Ambush first and then Hanar. Just be like, I need to empty my hand. I don't want more stuff.
Repentance? Yep. Solid. He didn't want to... I mean, I guess he's always getting another one back, right?
Not always, because he could have picked a rogue one if he really wanted.
Oh, okay. Apparently he just... Fine. Is he just not Vendettering? He's just not Vendettering. Okay, fine.
Keeping it for a rainy day.
Yep. That is all very reasonable. So ended up with Freezing Trap, Ambush, and Repentance that turn.
So many possibilities.
Really committing a Dark Skies here. The weird thing is, I'll say a good Dark Skies because, hey, there's 8 health on the board. It's just there's no damage on the board, though. So it feels weird, right? Like, Dark Skies is getting good value. It is dealing 8 damage. Good. But it was stopping 2 power.
Yeah, one of the cards was a Hanar, though, which kind of has to bite the dust that turn, right?
I don't know. After all the Hanar we've seen this weekend, I'm not sure who it's better for. Does it just confuse the player playing it more than it confuses the player playing against it? I'm not sure anymore, Solomon.
We have seen a few disaster turns from both sides of the equation when Hanar was involved.
It's just minds melt, don't they? Great. Also, because of the nature of how slow this matchup is a lot of the time, it does mean that Felkeine, because he hasn't used Shadow Step yet, I believe, unless I blinked and missed it.
He has
can
not
go for, you know, the crazy, say there's a board full of 1/1s or whatever, the Krunk's buff, Shadow Step Krunk's buff, or something like that, right? He can go for things like that because he's just got the time. We can see Jarla's just doing nothing every turn. And that's not even a dig at Jarla. The deck often plays like this, right? Where you take it very slowly and then set up the fully invoked Galakron for the Warlock into Alexstrasza's swing. But before that happens, you don't really do much. Just fending off the aggression.
It's just one of those hands right now for Felkeine. He pretty much has to do this. Play the Rush Lackey. There's just nothing else in his hand that lets him dump a card. His options were Dirty Tricks, which would draw him 2 more cards, so then he'd be back in trouble. Ethereal Lackey would replace itself in the hand. Vendetta, unplayable. Flick, no way you're just dropping that on the board as a 4/4. Like, you just had to dump a Rush Lackey.
Yep, there was Repentance, but it obviously deactivates his Vendetta.
Yeah.
So maybe he should have just used the Vendetta earlier to free up hand space. More than anything, just get it out.
Yeah, it's worth thinking about for sure. And he'd be protecting a 4/1 potentially right now as well. He used to trade instead.
Mm.
I wonder.
What do you think of the Alexstrasza pick? Because obviously it's a deck with a mountain of healing on the other side.
I like it in theory. I just don't know when the plan is to actually play it. Maybe it's just a great card, because if Jarla plays slow again this turn, Felkeine can just go for 7, Alexstrasza. You've got an 8/8 to deal with, and now you've took damage, if that makes sense. And then if he heals up and kills the Alexstrasza, well, that would cost him a lot of resources, and all it cost Felkeine was just a slow turning. Or he didn't have too much to do anyway.
Sure.
So maybe it's just a good throwaway card, which sounds really weird for an Alexstrasza as a throwaway card, but now Alexstrasza Flick, is that just insane?
It looks pretty strong, not gonna lie.
Why not? Sure, chucking a lackey. Which card do I want to pick?
Your favorite card, Raven? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right
I
down
don't
the
know why
middle.
I've latched onto this so much, but I just love it. I've got no excuse why.
In case anyone didn't notice as well, Jarla's Zephyrus was active last turn with 11 cards left in his deck, which is kind of insane. Something that Felkeine probably will not be playing around here.
Yeah, I like this turn a lot, and I think this is why the Alexstrasza was good. Even without the Flick target, Jarla's probably not going to make a huge board. It's like, yeah, whatever, just drop Alexstrasza. If this lives, just wins. Because he has that Krunks, and now he has Krunk's Shadow Step, which again is that not only big board buff, could be 10 damage from hand, whatever works out more. He can refill the board. There's just so many good options with Krunks now.
There you see again now the yellow border on the Zephyrus and the Dragon Queen.
My question really, Sol, is did Jarla have to be this slow?
I don't think he's been that slow.
I just wonder if, like, that last turn with Zephyrus active, he could have just done something a little bit more threatening. Obviously, he doesn't know about Alexstrasza in hand for Felkeine, but he's going to have to put a stop to this, which he can't do with the Plague of Tentacles.
I think what he did last turn was fine. He played an Invoke card, step number 1 for playing Galakron Warlock. That seems good. And he swept a decent sized board and left a 5/5 in play. Like, that's a pretty big swingy turn, right, as far as he's concerned.
And his Galakron is full, correct?
It is full now, yeah.
Now, really good follow-up as well. He could actually just drop his Dragon Blight if he really wanted and utilize the Sacrificial Pact this turn. If he has the mana, frees up some hand space, and then he can just go for the Galakron push next. Go for the Sacrificial Pact. always be a little bit scared to not play Sack Pack there.
I think with Zephyrus gone, you are just safe, right? With an empty board.
Yeah, my point is if the board is cleared and then he plays Galakron, well, what if he wants his 4 demons? I guess he has hero power.
Yeah, okay.
I guess he has hero power, but then that's mana. You know what I mean, right? I think it was just a nice imp to just Sack Pack and take the heal.
That's fair.
Obviously, the Galakron Warlock version always has hero power, generate 2 imps. Just the nature of that costing mana. Always to consider here. Fan of Knives. Clean way.
Ooh.
Okay, Vendetta, your own cat. Let's go.
Is it cold?
Also, a small note just to keep in mind as well for Felkeine's hand. And not only a Vendetta activator, but now this Repentance just activates Blackjack Stunner, which is, again, fantastic if there's any pesky Galakron minions that come out to play. Or Galakron demons, should I say.
Yeah, he can actually use that combination as well and still have the Vendetta active because now he has the Winged Guardian activating his Vendetta instead.
Yeah, just multiple reasons why what looks like quite a sort of innocuous just secret that you could just play randomly isn't being played.
Right.
There are reasons. Now, rough stage here for Jarla. If this Galakron doesn't pay off, he could be in trouble. Slightly
good.
below average, would you
I think
say?
it's okay. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just a solid okay. No dormants for active minions that are in play. I think that's always kind of a win in this kind of situation.
Yeah, it's just low health, isn't it? No high health, not even one high health demon.
Right.
It's always a bit of a feels bad, but probably good enough as his health shoot all the way up. 25, but what, there's 8, 9, 13, 20. Less than 20.
So Kronks can potentially pick this apart. Combination of Vendetta and Faceless can pick it apart.
Yeah, what about Vendetta, Faceless, and then Bully? Can that get the job done enough?
So you value
you've got to
trade the
think
1/1. Value trade the 1/1 with the Ferrocat, then Faceless it. Value trade on both of the 2/1s. Vendetta the 5/2, play Bully, go Face. Seems okay.
Yeah, and you've got to think, what's Felkeine worried about now? Galakron's been played. A lot of removal's been played. You know what hasn't been played? Zephyrus and Alexstrasza. You know what they are? Battlecry minions. Get that Bully down. I think if there's ever a turn, it looks like
swings.
Oh, unfortunate there that the attack went on the minion that isn't easily killable.
And in that case, you will probably just end up using the Stunner on it. Yeah, that
Don't
makes
let the
sense.
door hit you.
Oh, is he going to go for Winged Guardian? Interesting. I felt like the boom pistol was insane here.
There's every chance still that with 7 cards left in his deck, those cards aren't even active yet for Jarla. You do have to consider that. Like, we've known they've been active for a long time.
That's true, but I just guess my point is if that's the case, is it not just, do you not just win anyway?
Yeah, maybe. Plague of Flames
No,
is
so.
still the scary thing in this situation, which, you know, maybe playing the Reborn minion instead of the 5/5 is a little better against, but
You
also
have one left.
can also make the argument of, like, can he generate a big enough board to Plague of Flames away your stuff without playing expensive, you know, Battlecry minions if you've played the Boom Pistol Bully? Yes, he has one left, by the way. In answer to your question.
Time is burning out.
Yeah, it's just very interesting, honestly. Again, we have the vision, right? But looking at this Warlock list, it maybe surprised me that how many Battlecry minions are actually in there.
Yeah.
Like, most of them are Battlecries.
Yeah, we saw the turn yesterday against Jarla, right, where a Boom Pistol Bully did come down. It was like, yep, that's just his whole hand.
Turns out, funnily enough, that he, you know, did the play without using any Battlecries anyway. Which means that in a roundabout way, Felkeine still gets to have insane value from this boom pistol. But he did lose the Van Cleave, and Felkeine healed up by 8. So a bit of a big deal that turn, actually. Jarla holding on for now.
What about?
He did play Veiled Worship at that turn as well, just in terms of battle cries and living with that world.
That's true,
so.
that's true, that's true. I wonder if Felkeine just commits now and just plays Krunks. AoE's the ball away.
How about a moolah? How about a moolah?
Approaching. Keep hold of the Crunch Shadow Step, I do like. I did just wonder whether it was just enough to say, you know what, get rid of this board, you've got to make it again. And although the Winged Guardian would die to a weapon swing, he's probably okay with Jarla swinging into that, taking 7.
What if? What if?
I think Jarla has done a pretty good job so far of sort of navigating around the fringe lethal outs that Felkeine can present. Specifically, you were talking about earlier that Galacron and Shadow Step. That's got a pretty big deal, and with only 6 cards left in the deck for Felkeine. Jarla knows that the maximum damage output is fairly likely.
I was doing a really good job of clearing this up, though. He still has hold of the Zephyrus and Alexstrasza, so is Jarla going to get there? So close.
I don't know how much total value Felkeine has left in his deck from this point. Obviously, he does still have his own Dragon Queen Alexstrasza in hand.
Okay, well, there's a nice turn. Boom Pistol's going to lock out all of the cards apart from exactly Dark Skies. And okay, not lock them all out completely, but make the turn horrible. As Jarla's pretty much only going to get to play one of his cards in his hand this turn. And maybe that's enough. The Mana Saber does deal 3, and then Krunks, Shadow Step Krunks deals 10. It does add up to me, Sottle. Unless exactly the taunt comes down. Because I don't think Zephyrus would offer a heal, right, at this point?
Yeah. Don't. Maybe with the threat of the Stealth Minion on the other side that can't be removed, maybe. But 13 is usually a little bit high.
Time is burning out. What about?
Really tough for Jarla because he knows he's facing down some kind of burst, and honestly, with Felkeine being relatively low on cards, it is not unlikely that Shadow Step Trunks is the plan for Felkeine here. So I think Jarla made the logical leap there, which wasn't much of a leap, that playing a taunt minion is probably pretty good right now. Negate the 3 damage to face that the Mana Saber can achieve.
Yes, for sure. Like I said, he's been doing a really good job of just navigating these breakpoints so that he doesn't get burst out. It's a shocking looking turn, just playing a 10 mana 4/5 taunt, but it's the necessary to prevent this 3 damage and then 10 more coming through from the Kronks.
Now does Felkeine just have to say, okay, well, Alexstrasza turn, let's go. He could even pop a Bamboozle with the attack at post Alexstrasza, which wouldn't be half bad.
That's true, yep.
Not great, but otherwise he's playing what Krunks to AoE, and that just kills his own Mana Saber.
Right.
Does it, and kills 1/1s. You know, like that feels horrible from where I'm sat. Could go with a slower turn of hero power to see what the lackey is, and then have Bone Rage and a Bamboozle as well if he really wants. But feel like it might have just been an Alex Straza turn there.
Up too late. His return is nigh.
He's going to use the Kronks to clear it now. Is the Shadow Step coming down? If not, then I imagine that Felkeine's going to pivot and go for the Shadow Step Alex Straza play to just say, big dragon value.
Yes. If he's giving up his Kronk's win condition, then it's very likely just a value for value fatigue win condition that he's going for, which honestly, he's not really that far off either with only one card remaining in Jarla's deck. So he doesn't have to be tunneled on game-ending damage. The problem is that his deck is fairly sparse on mass removal as Highlander Rogue when Zephyrus was already used for a wild growth early. So Jarla still might be able to make just one giant board that Felkeine can't necessarily deal with, even from this point.
I guess maybe this is the plan though, where if that's the route that Felkeine sees this game going down, then this Kronks is enough to be a threat. If that's the case, does Jarla have to remove the Kronks? If he removes the Kronks, he's probably not making a huge board, which means Felkeine gets to make the first huge board, right?
Yep.
And then say, well, okay, well, if that's the case, and I have Shadow Step on the Alex, I should win because I just do everything that little bit faster. Combined, as you mentioned, with the fatigue being in Felkeine's favor right now.
Yeah, very fair. I think that's all very well laid out.
See, Dark Skies just stops the Alex Straza being playable now, and this is, although a wide board, not the most threatening board in the world. The big frustration for Felkeine is he knows there's a Plague of Flames left.
Ooh. There's a chunk of damage with the Eviscerate as well.
Only
it is
Shadow Step and Eviscerate.
Life and
technically still a massive amount of damage in play, though. When you consider that the Alex Straza hasn't been used, the regular OG Alex Straza hasn't been used yet.
Yeah.
There's 14 showing, and Felkeine is functionally just at 15 at any given point.
And
What about
that's just it, right? Is that just a problem? There's nothing that Felkeine can't eviscerate. His dragons don't actually impact the board in a way that stops Jarla going face.
It's 14, not 15. So he's okay.
In time.
Does he not just get there with thingy though? With the lust?
out of cards?
Oh, possibly, yeah. Hang on. So 5 times 3, 15
Just
more.
to do 20?
Yeah. So you just need to check the secrets. Yeah. Yep.
Your wish is my suggestion.
What a game, Sol. I'm actually very impressed that this game went as long as it did. 'Cause it felt like Felkeine was in control and being the aggressor for most of the game, but Jarla, I think, did just about enough every turn. And that's kind of what the deck is, right? Just doing enough to clear the board and keep it empty until you go into late game and make those pushes with the Galakron and with the Alex Straza.
Yeah, and I think that is the benefit of, you know, when you have like a pet deck, which this Galakron Warlock does seem to be for Jarla. You know, as much as we criticized it yesterday, also said like he's clearly put a bunch of time into this deck because he keeps bringing it week after week after week. When you have played the deck that much and you play it at that level, yeah, you can navigate around Kronk, Shadow Step Kronks being the one out from your opponent for 4 or 5 turns in a row and just force them into a point where they have to give up on that completely, which is what Jarla did. I think he navigated the late game of that really, really beautifully, consistently just shutting off all of those outs for damage just by the smallest amount. Which meant that Felkeine had to keep waiting, and that one final push. For some reason, I was just super tunneled on the Alex Straza at the end of the game, yeah. But then obviously the Zephyrus was significantly more damage in that position. But yeah, just that one wide board. Like I said, you know, Rogue very sparse on mass removal when you use Zephyrus for ramp early.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the differences maybe we don't actually talk about too much, and maybe that's just our fault, but when we talk about, say, for example, this Galakron Warlock, what is it a bad deck for this weekend? Is it a bad bring? That's one thing, but you can also just play a deck very well and win with it, right? As long as the deck isn't like basic mage, maybe, you know, then as you mentioned, if it's a pet deck, if you just know it inside and out, then you can just play well, even with a deck that might not be the best bring to a specific weekend. Maybe the play just makes up for it. So anyway, Jarla's taking the win. Got his Galakron Warlock behind him now. Now he's going to go for Demon Hunter against Highlander Rogue.
Now, in my
this is like a good opening.
significantly less Highlander Rogue experience than you, Raven, I have loved this hand against Demon Hunter because you can do a variety of very cute things with it. Obviously, if they play a minion on 1 and you play Zephyrus on 2, it offers you backstab. But you don't have to play that backstab. You can just have a backstab in your hand with Edwin Van Cleef also in your hand. And just sort of engineer that together whenever you want, which I think is like super cool. Obviously, it used to be Sacrificial Pact as well in a lot of situations, but similar effect. If anything, that was just even better because you got to heal up the damage that you invest in making that play.
Yeah, very nice opening hand. And if the board was split and Felkeine was on coin, obviously without a minion you can coin Zephyrus out with a powered shield, save that to do big cleave things. Also, Seal Fate just always has a target versus Demon Hunter. It's not like they don't play tons of early game minions. So yeah, this hand is pretty fantastic. Even though arguably the Togwaggle and the Tiamat are a little bit early to the party, just the first 3 cards looks great. Now we're going to have not the worst opening either, although you could argue it's a little bit slow in its minion pressure. Just 2 Chaos Strikes keep the hand turning over and also put a lot of pressure on. But now we see the first question for Felkeine. Does he want to just Seal Fate this? Does he want to do anything funky with Zephyrus? Does he want to slow it, just aggro up instead?
Wow. Okay. Really valuing having that dagger still equipped here. He just could have spent his mana on just ripping Seal of Fate at his opponent's face if he really wanted to do that.
I think the big point here is this going a little bit slower only makes each of his cards better, right? Because then he can start doing like the Zephyrus backstab Van Cleef in 1 turn. If it ends up adding up like that or whatever, but he can basically start comboing these cards together a little bit more effectively and then make maybe the smooth transition into these later game cards such as Target and Seal. Yeah, I'll gotta work out whether he wants to play this.
Time grows short.
It's a tough one. On one hand, you're saying, oh, why play a sidekick? It's just a 1-2 versus rogue, so it's meaningless. On the other hand, when does this sidekick actually get played this game, if not now? Feels like it's a long way away.
Sure. I do like what Jarla's doing here in just terms of just pushing straight up damage and not really playing minions. He hasn't had much option because like Beaming Psychic is pretty much the first minion he's had the option to play. But you can see a lot of the cards in Felkeine's hand and a lot of the cards in a lot of the cards in the average rogue hand do get activated when the opponent starts playing minions, right? Like Seal of Fate gets better, Backstab gets better. If those cards get better, then Edwins start getting bigger, and they're able to leverage your minions against you by making tempo swings. If you don't do that kind of stuff against rogue and you just start hitting them in the face with weapons and battle cries and spells over and over, it's a lot more difficult for them to get started with all their lackeys and invoke and everything else that they want to do in the mid game.
And speaking of big Edwins,
the biggest Edwin.
There's a 2-2.
Yeah.
I'll have to work out again what he wants to do here. I think I like equipping the Umber Wing here. I'm just going for a hero power. It means he doesn't have to commit to Twin Slice to activate the Glaive Bound next turn. Although then on the flip side, it also means he might end up overwriting the weapon to equip a Warglaive. That's enough based on what Felkeine's going to follow up with. I feel like this does give him the most options though.
Agreed. Boy, Highlander Rogue looks clunky sometimes.
Nobody move, and no one gets hurt.
It does, but it's about to start looking a lot smoother overall. Once he can start getting into this, once he can start going just like bomb chaining, as long as he doesn't quite die yet, the Tiamat's going to be nice to, for example, like rush Windfury in a turn. But we did go for Boom Pistol Bully and not the Mana Saber this turn, so that does slow it down significantly. Maybe the Zephyrus can just bridge that.
Yeah, I like the idea with the Boom Pistol Bully. Obviously, it really almost never gets value against Demon Hunter. The one card it does impact is Gladebound Adept, really. And outside of that, it's like, well, Sightless Watcher in some lists. Like, there's really not much that you're hitting. So getting use of, out of that card, like, when you've got the opportunity to do so, makes sense to me.
Will this not be deceived? Joking, of course, I know it won't. Riddick Swampu's coming down here to remove the Warglaves of Azinov. And this is just, although it looks a little bit weird, this is just a solid board versus Demon Hunter. It's some minions that'll get some good trades down and will help just bridge that gap to get Siamat on board.
Yeah, 12 is not a particularly solid health total against Demon
It's
Hunter,
not.
though, unfortunately.
Second Warglaves as well. I wonder if that's the play. Just get that locked and loaded now. Maybe even commit a Twin Skill off the Hanar.
Well, if he just jams everything face and he has Kane in his hand, what's the counterplay from Highlander Rogue that's already used Zephyrus?
That's what I mean, right? Just go Warglaves. You can kill the Hanar anyway. And then just push the 5 extra to face afterwards. Set up the Kane. So yeah, I like it. Oh yeah, I guess he kills Zephyrus as well, right? Because of Shadow Step.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. And he shouldn't need all of these, you know, every swing of the Warglaves to win the game. To face him.
Yeah, the problem is, like, well, if you're killing Zephyrus because of Shadow Step, you also need to kill the Ooze because of Shadow Step. It's kind of the same deal, right?
I think like Zephyrus can do more because of heal, right?
That's fair.
He's doing it though.
Yeah.
Dick gone. Now he has a guaranteed 4 from hand, so Felkeine has to heal. Not dying next turn.
This just seems right? Like, what's the point in not killing the Ooze, having one charge of the thing left that you still need to potentially push with when you just have Kane hero power next turn? The healing's gone, right? It's going to be a Titanic Lackey or it's going to be a Taunt Siamat that's going to shut you down from here, so it shouldn't matter. As long as you can just push the 4 damage, which you definitely can. I think the board clear was pretty solid. That's going to be 2-2.
Yep, looks pretty straightforward. As we said, not much Felkeine can do. There's multiple ways that Jarla could end this game, but being put down to 4 so quickly, not much Felkeine means that this game, as you said, is over. And Jarla is on the comeback now, taking the win first with his Galakron Warlock, and now the Demon Hunter's in the bag. Means that he only needs to win one more game, but it is all going to come down to the Rogue Mirror. So on one hand, we see Rogue do extremely well and get some very early wins in the first series of the day. On the other hand, the series is going to come down to just whose Rogue will actually take a win. Very interesting the way it does seem, quite rightly, just a middle-of-the-ground deck right now, Sol. Or archetype, or class.
Yeah, I do really like that setup from Jarla at the end, though. Like, literally, the only thing I can think of is, like, Frozen Shadow, like, generate a Lackey with Praise Galakron. Frozen Shadow Weaver the face, have like backstab to clear the small minions that are in play already, and then get Titanic Lackey to taunt up the Frozen Shadow Weaver, because then obviously he can't attack for the 1 damage he needs with Kane, and he can't attack to activate the battle cry from the Gladebound. But at that point, cool, past turn, I'll do it next turn instead. You know, like you're kind of that comfortable in the position that you're in. So I think it was a really nice little looking setup for Jarla at the end there. But as you said earlier, I was going to bring this up when you said that Felkeine was one of the few on Highlander Rogue. Jarla is right there with him.
Yeah, both players bringing Highlander Rogue means things are going to get awfully spicy awfully quickly, because I think either way, this game doesn't often end that quickly because of just the nature of the value, nature of potentially, because you're not fending off hyper-aggression. Then suddenly Zephyrus, Shadow Step Zephyrus is something you can think about. Same again with Alex Straza or even Krunk. So it's going to be a bit of a weird matchup, as both players, even in the mirror, if they think it's going to be a slow one, probably still aren't going to try and fully invoke the Galakron. So a lot of the time, it does come down to just who Galakron's first, as opposed to who Galakron's to the most value.
Yeah, I mean, there are certainly, like, some tempo lines that you can push, and there are some blowouts where just, you know, the quality of one player's Wondrous Wand is just so much higher than the others, or one player gets it and one doesn't. It can happen. But generally, if that isn't the case, the game goes late, but not necessarily to fatigue. Because the problem with the decks, both of them, essentially both decks run into the problem that Felkeine had versus the Warlock, right? Where they can both generate a massive number of threats. They can't generate an equal amount of removal to keep up with those threats. So they're both like trying to bomb chain each other when it gets to the late game, and generally neither deck is equipped to be able to remove all those big bombs that are coming down from the other. So it does end in like one player just, getting a big board, cronks, boom, you're dead kind of thing most of the time. But that does tend to happen quite late into proceedings.
It is, yeah. A lot of the time the end game comes down to whoever can't at least even up the board state first just loses. So we'll see how it plays out here, though, as we do get into...
Did you select those words at random? I'm not sure that was a sentence.
It was a perfectly cromulent sentence.
Okay.
Last game of this series is going to be the Rogue Mirror Highlander. Felkeine on the top with Zephyrus available and a Van Cleef. That is... I feel like that's just a constant caveat to anything we talk about in late game Rogue, is you can just cleave them as well. So there is a chance that with Zephyrus, Coin, and Van Cleef that Felkeine can just go big and not go home.
Yeah, and this is a much more exciting Van Cleef turn than the previous one was, even, because he has Zephyrus things he can manipulate. He already has a couple of 1-mana spells. Praise Galakron will give him a lackey, which, if he wants to play it, it just replaces itself with a cheap card anyway. Dragon's Horde, if he draws Vendetta, then that becomes activated to help along his big Edwin as well. Pretty promising hand.
Choose soon.
Shadow Weaver draw for Felkeine. I don't think overly changes his plans. Something that's going to be a little bit better later on, or even just as a filler. Looks, Felkaine's just playing Zephyrus for the Wild Growth. Is this the Mage Mirror at all?
Yeah, Wild Growth's still just a very good card if you can make sure you have it on turn 3.
History Buff, definitely one of those I would call like a filler card. Not a star of the deck by any means, but now and again you go, oh, these 1/1s are actually pretty good. And you do get some just slight value.
This curve is pretty sick now from Jarla. Really mitigating a lot of the ramp that Felkaine's found himself. Yeah, History Buff certainly also gets better when you have the Sky Pirate opener as well.
Yeah. Honestly, even if this turn is just Mana Saber, some enhanced +1/+1, and you play the Spider Tank to get that. That's okay.
It might still be Sky Pirate Miscreant, because the Mana Saber doesn't actually ramp him into anything super relevant this turn most of the time.
So many options.
Yeah, it's mainly the emergency on curve or off curve, I guess, flick, right?
Yeah.
Maybe having the option to just flick if he needs to is great, and if not, he just keeps the Mana Saber stealth, right? After
that's fair.
They can go into
I just
Tiamat
think
next turn.
The only real benefit of doing it the other way around is that, you play these small minions to get buffs on your better minions, as opposed to doing it this way around, where now, like, his Sky Pirates are getting buffed, right? Which doesn't seem as relevant.
I thought this was a trek-in for a minute then. I was like, wait, what's going on? What deck are we playing? Yep, we're talking a maybe lack of late game removal. Even though so the first thing you might think about isn't removal. It is 16 power of rush in one turn late game, so it's kind of removal.
Well, we talked about ramping into flick last time. I don't think this is the Zixor you want to be flicking in general.
No. I'm wondering, honestly, if there's ever a play of they're trying to get this Spy Mistress buff. Is this Tiamat now an 8/8?
7.
Or it's 7, okay.
There's one on the Spy Mistress. Spy Mistress is a 4/2, Tiamat's a 7/7.
All I'm thinking is maybe Jarla could end this game before this Wild Growth even matters.
I think that is a distinct possibility
So
right now,
many
yeah.
options.
Kobold Lackey, a Theo Lackey with some damage. The Eviscerate's already there.
In the
Push. Stealth minions that aren't really interactable, honestly, for Felkeine right now.
Now it's an 8. You're just ahead of the curve as always, really.
Well, I do write it, so it does make sense.
Well, no, my brain just melted. How can you be ahead? Oh, no. Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
You there?
Yeah.
Keep up, Sol. Yeah, there's not
Reveling in the moment. His brain's actually working faster than mine.
Not sure whether my brain's doing good or yours is just having a bad day. Doesn't matter. But yeah, as you can see right now, Felkeine can't really do anything about this board of Jarla's. It's 14, 15, 16, that's 20, I believe.
I
21 with the dagger.
I was wondering if he actually goes into Tiamat just to clear off this Tog. And just hold the Lackey. And Dagger and Eviscerate, of course. It seems fine then, because the Tiamat's buff, if Felkeine kills it, then it's probably either a Flick or a lot of removal. In which if he plays Flick on 7 mana, he's dead.
Yep.
I like this a lot. Wow, what a way to... Oh, okay, it's not ended yet, obviously, but...
too soon.
This Galakron or Wand has to do something quite incredible. Because the 8A needs to be dealt with, and the massively wide board does too. Oh! Oh! Backstab. Plays off the 4-2. 2 primes go into the 8A, another one goes into the 3-4. It might not be enough, but it's a lot.
What?
Is it gold?
Oh yes, freeze, of course. I didn't even count the Shadow Weaver.
What do you mean it might not be enough? Look at this!
'Cause I discounted
this is the most illegal thing that's ever happened,
I
Raven.
forgot he could play the Shadow Weaver, okay? I was imagining 2 of these had to go into the Tiamat.
What?
He's still looking okay. Still a very good turn.
Well, to revisit my earlier statement, this is the Zigsaw you want to play.
though. Yep. No, Felkeine. The hope he had of actually flipping this board on its head and winning this game might have just gone away.
He's still in a significantly better position than he was about 25 seconds ago, though.
He is, but now almost once again he's close to all in on. Do you think he just flicks the Tiamat and hopes?
That seems kind of sketchy.
He has to, right? Is that? I think the Tiamat onto the 8-8 and then the trade into the 3-3 with the Mana Saber is better than going Galakron cross fingers, right?
Yeah, he gets the Miscreant as well, or the Edwin alongside it as well, because of the ramp.
Needs
Makes me
Jarla
feel
to
a
have
little
6.
bit better about the play.
Unfortunate that he doesn't have one more mana to utilize a Lackey. Either, Rush, Taunt would have been great. But regardless, I count 6 Sol, and that is enough. And Jarla, all the way back. We talked about in games 1, I think it was, that Jarla's probably feeling frustrated in the first 2 games of today. Not only did he lose those, but he took a loss yesterday in his match. But some composure overall and a win with a few of his decks, it means that he's actually took this series overall and then ends his weekend 1-1. It feels infinitely better than going 0-2, which is just a disaster for week 1 of round robin.
Yeah, for sure. And, Felkeine is now the one staring that down, potentially. Jarla recovering, getting back over the line, and it really was a very one-sucking Rogue Mirror up until that Zigsaw Prime appeared off the top, but still, because that flick was in hand, there was just really not enough gas to reload again after that and really stabilize from the damage that Jarla had. So, we did say that those usually go late, but it's usually not that one-sided in the early game.
Right.
And that's twice now with the Highlander Rogue that Felkeine has kept a hand with Zephyrus and Edwin, and then gone down this line where the Edwin just never really got value. It was played as a 2/2 in the previous game, and then in this game it just didn't get any value at all. Which is kind of interesting to me because usually I'm used to seeing those hands like work out really, really nicely for Highlander Rogue.
Yeah, honestly though, it's something I haven't really messed around with outside of very niche circumstances is the Zephyrus Wild Growth in Highlander Rogue. I feel like you can do way more broken things than Ramp. It's not like Mage where all of your broken things is Mage in the end game, right? So you want to get to there as quickly as possible. I feel like with Rogue, you can do broken things almost all game, so why not have the Zephyrus do something earlier? So yeah, it's just interested to see if that becomes a bit more common or not, but I haven't personally seen too much wild growth from Zephyrus on 2, especially with an Edwin in hand. But that was series number 2 of the day. We're going to move on very quickly to series number 3, which is going to be Psycho